Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Island families. We hope you enjoy this evening's edition.
Our next speaker is Congressman James Langevin, and Jim has been a fighter for middle-class jobs and middle-class families in Rhode Island from the very beginning of his career. The work that he has done to help Building Futures succeed has been extraordinary. I want to thank him for that and ask him to say a few words. Congressman Jim Langevin.
Well, Pat, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with this great crowd. I remember being here just a couple of years ago when we kicked off Rhode Island Building Futures, and obviously it's taken hold and it's growing rapidly, and it's going to make a big difference and is making a big difference in terms of getting our workers trained with the right skills to do the jobs that are available right now. And I want to just begin by saying how pleased I am to be here today with my colleagues in the delegation, Senator Reid and Congressman Cicilline, and as Pat said, I know that Senator Whitehouse, he sends his regrets, wishes he could be here, but he, along with the rest of the delegation, believe in this program. And we've been doing everything we can to make sure that we support your efforts. And I also want to send a special recognition to Pat McGuigan, obviously with the Providence Plan, as well as Building Futures Director Andrew Cortez for their vision and their leadership. This is truly a program worth investing in, and both Andrew and Pat obviously are people who truly understand the significant value of apprenticeship opportunities and meeting the demand for properly trained employees. So, of course, none of this would be possible without the collaboration of our industry, trade, and educational partners, and I also want to thank them for their steadfast commitment and to building a highly skilled workforce. And we have a lot of people in the room, obviously, who support this effort. Michael Sabatoni, I know George Nee is here, a lot of folks from Labor, and too many to mention. But I thank them for their partnership, along with our members of the legislature who are here as well. Building Futures really is at the heart of an issue that's very important to me, something I spend a lot of time on in the Congress, and one that should be really important to all of us, and that's closing our skills gap. Many employers right now are looking to expand here in Rhode Island. I know because I hear it when I travel around the district and meet with them, and I ask them, what is it that they need the most right now? And one of the things, in addition to access to capital, is obviously having a skilled workforce that can do the jobs that are available. But it's hard to find workers with the skills necessary to succeed in these jobs right now. That's why Rhode Island Building Futures is so important. And obviously, if we want companies to come here and relocate to Rhode Island, we can't expect them to do that if we don't have the workforce ready for them when they get here. So this is obviously a very important part of that effort. The construction trades are an important part of solving this dilemma, and trained welders, carpenters, plumbers, and other similar tradespeople obviously will always be in demand, and it's vital that we meet that demand to provide Rhode Islanders with skilled employment opportunities that will help drive our economic recovery. That's what's going to build a strong Rhode Island for the future. The success, of course, though, of any training program does lie in an employer-educator partnership, and that's what this program is all about. Through strong engagement of local businesses, Building Futures will be able to ensure that students can graduate with the ability to succeed in their chosen field. The emphasis on in-demand skills cannot be obviously overstated, and the easiest way to make sure that training matches workplace needs is to work in close conjunction with key employers in the construction fields. So these partnerships benefit not only the students, but the companies as well. Programs like Building Futures are a long-term investment in a trained workforce. And right now, there are 145 individuals that have been placed as registered apprentices thanks to the experience at Building Futures. And I think that's something really to celebrate. There's 145 people that are in good-paying jobs right now helping to build a stronger Rhode Island. So these jobs span 12 different construction trade fields. They boast a retention rate of 93%, thanks to the Building Futures continued support during the first year of employment. I think that follow-up is essential. That support that they need is there. And let me just say in closing, again, focusing a lot on this type of education, these types of training programs. As co-chair of the Congressional Career and Technical Education Caucus, I'm working with my colleagues both in Washington and here in Rhode Island to support the skills training at all levels of education. Additionally, last year, I also introduced a Counseling for Career Choice Act, which assists school counselors to gain awareness of local workforce trends and help students follow the path towards a fulfilling career that's going to be robust for them. It's going to provide a good living wage and help them build a strong future for themselves and their families. So I just want to say I am committed to expanding apprenticeships in on-the-job training, and obviously these are proven ways for students to build careers and for our state to build a bright economic future. And I certainly look forward to working with everyone here as we expand Rhode Island's construction industry with a skilled workforce. This is a great day for Rhode Island, a great thing to celebrate. So thank you all very much.
This is a private sector initiative, and without private employers and private contractors and private users who commit to building futures, we don't have anything to work on. I want to introduce Steve Marisi. If you haven't checked out the posters, check it out. Brown University has been the #1 sponsor of Building Futures projects in the entire state. It was a commitment that started with former President Simmons, has committed with President Paxson, but the go-to person at Brown is Steve Marisi. And so I'd like to have Steve say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to join all of you today to represent Brown University as we mark the success that Building Futures has proven to be. I wish that I could say that 6 years ago, when Andrew and Greg came to meet with me to introduce Building Futures program and to encourage Brown's participation, that I could have predicted how successful this program would become, but that would not be accurate. In fact, I have to admit that as they described the program to me at the time, I was a little bit skeptical. It all sounded very good, almost too good in some ways, but in the end, I knew that it reflected the values of Brown, so we agreed to move forward with the initial pilot project. That was 16 projects ago, and since then, Brown has invested $274 million in construction and renovation projects that have included partnering with Building Futures. These projects themselves have had tremendous value for the economy of our city and state, and the Building Futures program offers even greater rewards, namely providing opportunities for the 68 Building Futures apprentices who have worked on these Brown projects, a truly committed workforce, and building a pipeline for skilled labor for Providence and Rhode Island. The Building Futures program reflects Brown's values of providing opportunities for talented individuals regardless of income, economic circumstances. The program has offered an exceptional pathway to strengthen the construction workforce in our city and state, and Brown is pleased to have been an early partner. It's been a great partnership. On a personal level, it's been a tremendous experience. The pilot program that we started evolved seamlessly into a standard of practice at Brown and eventually led to the recent Memorandum of Understanding, which includes Brown's agreeing to incorporate Building Futures program into all of our construction projects over $5 million. I would like to conclude by saying a few words about the apprentices that show up every day to work on Brown's campus. I have been impressed and encouraged to see energetic, enthusiastic, talented individuals who take pride in their work. The apprentices we see on the job every day are deliberate in seizing the opportunity to make a difference for themselves and their coworkers. Great credit is due to Andrew Cortez and his staff for the incredible work they do in preparing the candidates to be successful in their work. As a result, the reputation of the program and the apprentices produces is strong. Thank you for the opportunity to be a partner. We have all benefited from the program, and I look forward to many more projects in our building future.
You know, $274 million, a couple more like that, we could really make a dent in the unemployment here in Rhode Island. Building Futures is the construction sector workforce initiative for the state of Rhode Island. It's an initiative that brings employers and labor together. On behalf of the construction industry, John Sinnott from the Associated General Contractors has been an active partner in Building Futures.
Thank you. Good morning. I also work for a small construction company that was set up 140 years ago by an immigrant. So I'm looking at the names here, and I'm wondering if there's going to be a raise or a hood construction later on in 140 years. So I'm going to keep it real simple. I want you to come away with 4 points. The first point, Building Futures is about careers, not jobs. It's not about creating jobs. It's about developing careers, lifelong careers. Number 2, if you want to know what economic development looks like, this is it. This is the start of economic development. Come right here. Number 3, you hear about what's a public-private partnership. This is a public-private partnership. This is everybody pitching in to make it work. And last point, number 4, investment. Think about those wonderful investments that you made, and think about 2008. Now think about the investment that was made in here in 2008 and look at the return. Thank you.
From the very beginning, the Building Trades and the Construction and Building Trades Council have been there with Building Futures. Mike Sabatoni is a member of our executive committee. Mike is the chair of our apprenticeship utilization committee. Mike says he is a boots on the ground kind of guy. And I'll tell you, I want Mike on our side making these things happen. And so Mike Sabatoni, say a few words, please.
Thank you, Pat. Good morning. I'd also like to say a special thanks to 2 individuals that are here today. And as you had heard, this program would have never got off the ground if it wasn't for the commitment of then Mayor Cicilline, and then the commitment, and I was at that meeting as well, and you were extremely skeptical about this program and Brown University, because as you hear, it takes partners, and it takes investment, and it takes a lot of organizations and people to come together to accomplish things of this nature. So I want to say to both of you, thank you very much for your commitment. One of the things I'm most proud of as president of the Building Trades is the diversification of the building trades, and that's what this program does. It looks into disadvantaged populations, minorities, to bring them into a career path in construction. And I couldn't be more proud of, as a proud father. When I took over as president in 2007, I was a little skeptical when Andrew came and visited me, and I said, this is a type of program that we need. As you start to look at the posters, you'll see that the average age of our construction workforce across the country is somewhere around 50 years old. And our numbers are anywhere between 20 and 25% over 55. We have an extremely aging population in the building trades. When you combine that with a down economy, it's really difficult to commit and bring young people into our industry, which is why we need the second thing, which is the demand. We need the demand. We need the commitments of construction users, both public and private, to invest in that demand so that we can continue to create work opportunities, entry-level opportunities, and in construction, that's through apprenticeship, so that we can continue to bring young people and afford them opportunities in our industry. I'll close with this, and I just want everybody, especially the decision makers and the construction users in Rhode Island of our services, to do this exercise after you take this tour here today. Next time you read an article in the newspaper about workforce development or lack of job skills, next time, or pick up a copy of this week's Providence Business News and look, where are the workers going to come from and what we need and how are we going to get them? remember where you were this morning and the tour that you're about to take, because this is the solution to those problems. And I just want to give one more shout out. The building trades and the trade unions do a lot of good things, but one of the most important things that we don't do is we don't employ anybody. And that's why it's so pivotal to have our contractors here with us as well, because as we come together as a joint labor management team, we have a job at the end of the skill set. So I'm extremely proud to be here. I thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoy the tour. Thank you.
Wow. Man, I think I got set up on this one. But thank you, everybody. Patrick Quinn, 1199 SEIU. Thank you to all my members and board members who give me a wonderful support every day and keep me on the straight and narrow. Thanks to all my brothers and sisters in SEIU, State Council. We really, really have a great organization in the state, and we want to build it. George asked me to say a couple of things on health care. I just want to echo what Frank said. The developmentally disabled population is really taken on the chin in the last couple of years, as well as obviously the workers who take care of them every day. And thankfully, the General Assembly, I want to thank them for putting some money back in there. We still have a long way to go. The state has essentially said, we want to figure out a way to improve the system. They did it under a court challenge, and a settlement with the Federal Department of Justice. So hopefully we can follow through on that. We can improve the quality of people's lives in the DD system, and we want to be partners in that with all the other locals that represent people in that area. So I just wanted to touch briefly on what I think is a huge step forward, which is the opening of the health exchange. But I want to kind of take 1 minute to echo what Michael said, which was we really have to fix this misclassification issue. It affects people obviously in construction, in janitorial, and a lot of other industries. But it's sort of the evil genius of the people that we go up against every day, that they figured out a way to reclassify somebody and they're not an employee, so all the protections that we all have worked for and our parents work for, to have people have the ability to have some rights on the job because they're an employee, they vaporize that in 30 seconds by saying they're not an employee, they're a contractor. So we really got to get that done. Our friends in the Senate got that done. We got to make sure the House understands in an election year we're not going to put up with that again. We need that protection for everybody, whether they're in their union or they're not a union. And it's a huge step forward. It has tax implications in terms of the revenue of the state, and it's really caters to people who are bottom feeders who want to figure out a way to pay people something less than minimum wage, or not pay taxes, or not pay workers' compensation. So we really got to get that fixed. That's a priority for our organization, and we want to make sure that happens. But and also to just touch briefly on what Frank said, the people who've had a run the last couple of years in trying to figure out a way to inject all of the public education dollars with all this, market crap, for lack of a better word, are trying to get their hooks into healthcare and trying to figure out a way to use privatization and downward pressure on wages. In fact, they found a Trojan horse in the healthcare reform to say, well, we have to reduce costs, we have to cut wages, we have to lay people off, and we have to tighten everybody's belt, except they never tighten their belt, the people at the top. So I anticipate that as the healthcare reform takes hold in the state, there'll be a lot of pressure on folks in the healthcare, in the hospitals in particular, to lower their standards. We intend on fighting vigorously against that because we think it's a bad idea to try and drive down wages for skilled nurses and techs and other people who deliver wonderful care in our state. There's a disconnect because our politicians are saying we need to grow the economy through meds and eds, except it's been very difficult for registered nurses who graduate from RIC or URI or CCRI or Salve to find a job in the last few years. It's been extremely difficult. No one's been hiring. So we need to figure that out. We need more healthcare professionals to deliver care in the community. That we're hoping is something that begins to turn around in the next few years. I just wanted to leave a couple of bullet points. I'm hoping to educate people and give them something to take away from this. And it has to do with the insurance exchange, which opened up on October 1st. 2,000 people now have insurance that didn't have insurance. I think that's something that we should celebrate. Most of the people who are working, who do not have insurance are working. 54% of the people in the state who don't have insurance are working. Right? To me, that's an organizing challenge, because if they're working, that means we can figure out a way to bring them into one of our different locals or one of our different affiliates and push up from the bottom. But also, we now have a floor through the exchange where people who don't have insurance can go and get it. That's important for the solvency of all of the healthcare institutions in the state, because when people show up, we're not so inhuman that we don't treat them, but they don't get paid. So people without insurance put tremendous stress on hospitals and on other providers, and hopefully we can move the needle on that and get those folks insured. Not going to come as a surprise to you, but almost half of the people who are uninsured are below 138% of the federal poverty level, which means they're making either in the teens or the low 20s, depending on the size of their family. So they're working people, but they're just working at low wages in industries and sectors that don't have health insurance. That's a challenge for us to try and organize those workers, because all the jobs that we have today that have good wages and benefits at one point didn't. We organized them and we pushed up from the bottom and we improved conditions, and now those are, quote, good jobs. Well, they weren't good jobs when they started out. So the number of uninsured, as long as it stays at 14% in our state, then all of our insurance is under attack. So we should try to do what we can to bring people into our union and also grow the access to the exchange and make sure that people can get health insurance through the exchange. 22% of the people who are uninsured work for an employer that offers insurance, but the costs are too high. Or there's other obstacles they put in their way. They keep them below 30 hours and they don't get access to it. Most of those people that don't have insurance are single childless adults, which means they're probably working. We've done an excellent job in this state, thanks to some of the leadership in the General Assembly and other places, to cover moms, to cover kids under 18, but single childless adults up till now have not have insurance. That's going to change through the exchange and through the expansion of Medicaid. But it's also our challenge to organize those workers and get them into our unions and push up standards. The other thing that I want to leave you with is it's obviously been an extremely difficult couple of years in terms of the unemployment rate and people trying to find jobs and trying to get employment. Half of the people who are uninsured have been insured for more than 12 months, which means they have difficulty accessing care, which means they probably don't have the meds that they need to control whatever condition they have. So unemployment leads to more people having no insurance, which means they don't find the care that they need for the most part. We have an opportunity through the health exchange to try and fix that, but it's also an organizing challenge, because we got to figure out a way to get people back to work. And when we have a system where, for the most part, people are getting their insurance through their job, getting people back to work will solve that. So it's all kind of a bundle. Our hospitals have been under stress because there's a lot more people without insurance. There's a lot of people out of work, which means there's people that don't have insurance. The health exchange has enrolled 2,000 people, but there's approximately 45,000 people, by the best estimates they can come up with, that don't have insurance in the state and can't get access to it. So we got to get that message out to people that the exchange is there for folks. Obviously, we have some issues with the overall health care law. We'll hear about that later in the some of the resolutions. But talking to our members who, for whatever reason, because they don't work enough hours or they don't have regular employment, about getting health care through the exchange will help them, it'll help the economy, it'll help get folks back to work. So I would just ask that people view this as also, what can we do to bring more people into our unions? And then I'd just like to close on this public-private issue, because I think it's one that's near and dear to our heart. We have, in SEIU, we have public workers and we have private workers. We have many private sector workers who are publicly funded, and I really do believe it's a distinction without a difference, because many of the dollars that are spent by public entities employing private workers. We need to lift up conditions for all those workers and not try to drag down the public sector just because they have a little bit more. That's something that we feel strongly about in SEIU, because we have jurisdiction in both areas. So those are just some points that I felt was important to kind of understand what's happening, and I appreciate your time again. Maureen, George, congratulations, and thank you very much.
Resolution number 16, a resolution supporting the Providence Renaissance Hotel workers, submitted by Unite Here, Local 217, and the committee moves passage.
Been a motion and a second. I believe we do have a speaker on this issue. The sister at mic to the right. Would you just identify yourself and what union you're from, sister?
Hello, hi, good evening. My name is Carmen Castillo. I'm a member of the Local 217, part of the Security Board. And also work for the Westin Hotel. I'm a room attendant here, and also I'm the city councilwoman for the city of Providence. So the reason I'm here tonight, I want to share with you, I'm fighting for almost 20 years with the Local 217 to create good jobs in the hotel in Providence. So now I'm here to support the workers for the Renaissance Hotel, because I think that's unfair what is happening here. There's a lot of abuse, and that's why we wanted, you support that resolution. And I got here one of the co-workers, his name is Julian, and he want to explain why he's fighting for. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother, if you just identify yourself and what union you're from.
I'm going to translate for him.
Okay, sure.
Mi nombre es Julián Bello, yo soy trabajador de housekeeping, trabajo para el Hotel Renaissance. Venimos aquí esta noche para recibir un apoyo de toda la comunidad de Rhode Island, que estamos aquí todos reunidos y queremos una sola lucha. Nosotros creemos que con el apoyo de ustedes podemos triunfar.
My name is Julián Bello. I work at the Renaissance Hotel. I'm a houseman there. I'm here addressing the convention because we're in a big fight at the hotel. We're asking for support. We're going to call a boycott. We're asking for your support in our fight. We want one big fight for all workers in Rhode Island.
Thank you. You've heard support for the resolution. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m. Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. Hi, I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Island families. This evening's edition will host Legislative Issues with Jim Parisi, where we bring the legislature into your living room. We hope you enjoy this edition of Legislative Issues and Labor Vision.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision, where we bring the General Assembly into your living room. My name is James Parisi. I'm a field rep with the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals, and I'm your host this evening. We have been having some shows with different labor leaders talking about legislative programs, and today we're going to continue our discussion with the building and construction trades. With us, we have Michael Sabatoni and Scott Duhamel. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you again, Jim.
So at the previous show, we ended by talking about the Dynamo House in the Jewelry District, not the Knowledge District.
Thank you,
And
Jim.
I know that there's also one other major construction project that's being discussed in the halls of the State House, and that's one of the big bond issues. What's going on in South Kingstown?
Well, actually, there are a few pieces to the budget that we had seen in the request for bonds. The biggest piece is in South Kingstown. It'll be about $125 million bond question to construct the engineering school down in the Kingston campus at URI, which is a really exciting project. I don't know if you've been down there recently, but the transformation and the investments that have been made in that university have been tremendous. We've got the School of Pharmacy, and this is just another piece of the puzzle for the natural progression of that campus. But you also have other pieces. You have about a $70 million bond question that will go to continue for the clean water and sewer for the cities and towns through the DEM, which would stimulate a lot of immediate construction activity as well as the long-term infrastructure of water and sewer in the state of Rhode Island. And then we also have a $40 million request to modernize the transportation hubs and solve some of the problems with RIPTA that will have both long-term impacts with a more 21st century transit authority, as well as immediate impacts in construction and the upgrading and the moving of that terminal outside of Kennedy Plaza, putting it near the train station and some other upgrades. So all in all, we have a lot of things that looking forward, we continue to invest in ourselves, and I think the taxpayers of Rhode Island, when they actually see what they're going to get, when they see a building, when they see improvements in infrastructure, when they see new roads and bridges, when we have to make those type of investments, those bonds usually pass pretty easily because they can actually see where their tax dollars are going, and it improves the overall quality of life for all Rhode Islanders.
And just so our viewers have a sense on how the process works, our governor's proposed a budget with these construction projects as his proposals to go before the voters, but it has to be approved by the General Assembly before the voters get a chance to vote on them in the fall.
That's correct.
Exactly.
There'll be specific questions, and the taxpayers will receive a notice of the questions, explanations of what the ask is and what the dollars will be used for, and each question will be voted on individually and have to be passed individually in order for the state to then be authorized to go out and bond to get the money to do those projects.
Then if the bonds pass, the excruciating thing happens next. The process to start getting a project going can take far too long. Director Leach has been very helpful in trying to make this process faster, but we just had the example of the URI Chem School. That bond issue was passed sessions ago, and the contract was just awarded within the last month. Mm-hmm. Right now we are eagerly awaiting the start to talk about the contracts for the Bristol Vets Home, which is two $45 million phases, and Rhode Island College, which is $40 million. But bond issue passes, gets through the legislature, voters vote for it, and then We wait and wait and wait to finally get boots on the ground.
I have to tell you, and I follow politics pretty closely. I figure after I vote on something, things move fairly quickly. And I remember voting for all of those projects, and I'm just surprised to hear that your members aren't even working on them.
Our members remember voting for those projects, and they had really feelings of, they were swelled with optimism. Now it's tough to explain that it's coming somewhere around the corner.
It's unfortunate, but that's one of the aspects of our industry. We always joke that you'll be at a groundbreaking, and that's just the ceremony, and our members will call and say, gee, will I get an opportunity on that job? And you say, well, that job's not going to start for 6 more months. That was fake dirt that they were throwing with the gold shovel.
Just a photo
We
op
still
right
got a
there.
ways to
Cutting that
go,
ribbon.
but we'll still take it. At least we know that those projects are in the books, and they will happen. So, and I'd just like to also mention and commend the governor for taking the bold step of realizing that we need to continue to invest in ourselves. If we don't invest in ourselves, then nobody else is going to invest in ourselves. And what's key to attract business to Rhode Island is to have a 21st century infrastructure, transportation authority, water and sewer, all of those things factor in. No business is going to come here with bridges and roads with potholes and all the other things that go with it. We have to have that if we want to attract people to come and invest in Rhode Island. We have to invest in ourselves.
I couldn't agree more. I think some of the politicians talk too much about corporate tax rates when they're talking about good business climate, instead of talking about the things that really matter to all of us, business owners included.
And the easy math, it seems obvious, but we have to explain it again and again. When it comes to these projects, the construction end, they always say, we've often had trouble where they don't count those as jobs, they're temporary jobs. But as Michael is fond of saying, a construction worker's career is made up of temporary jobs. But we believe when anybody makes a good middle-class job, what do? They spend in their own economy. So when our members are working, instead of what they're doing now, on the couch, afraid, if they can make their mortgage or rent payment, they buy a TV, they go out and have a steak dinner, or they have a beer at the local tavern. And we really believe it's a very simple economic addition. If they go to work and they get paid the proper wages and benefits, they will spend.
Sure. So we've talked a lot about construction projects, but I know you have some statutory changes, some legislation that you're working on as well. Give our viewers a sense on what your legislative priorities as far as changes in state law.
Again, I'd also like to commend the governor. I think it's Article 16 in his budget is tackling the issue that the building trades have been pursuing since I've been president in 2007. Since 2007, which is the employee misclassification, which we believe it's called the underground economy, and the rampant exploitation of workers in the state of Rhode Island.
I think we had Rep. Ucci here a couple of years ago talking about that exact issue.
We've talked about in this room that very subject many times over the past few years.
We have.
So we're still talking about it. So hopefully that budget article will pass. What it does is it mimics some of the tactics that Massachusetts has taken with the creation of a task force to address these issues going forward, and we're hopeful that that article will pass and start the process to clamp down on employers that are misclassifying. And there's numerous ways to misclassify. It isn't just about anointing somebody as an independent contractor when he should be a W-2 employee. It also goes to another whole side of the underground economy, which just is paying in cash, and the lucrative aspect of why that happens. And I was up at the State House last night. We were talking about it, and I heard one of the reps say, come on, is there really that many people that are out there that would be exploited? Who would want to be exploited? I said, there's no shortage of people that want to be exploited. It's called running away from child support, just declared bankruptcy, alimony, maybe your status as a worker, et cetera, et cetera. So there are numerous categories on why someone would actually choose to be off the books and work under the table.
That, and people are desperate for work,
and
will do anything that a potential employer asks them to do.
We've seen time and time again, we've talked to some of these workers who will gladly whisper to you that they're being exploited for whatever reason, being 1099, not getting overtime, being paid cash, but they are afraid to come forward because their choice is job or no job. They're not happy about it, but what are they going to do to replace that job? So it's not a pleasant situation to be in. We fully understand it, and that's the real economic problem, is that it's a job and they're getting paid, however wrongly, and they have nowhere else to go.
And I'll give you two others, too, because it's not always just those two things. And there are actually individuals that actually try and turn it to their advantage because they would get paid in cash because they might be collecting unemployment insurance and or workers' compensation or TDI. So they actually use the system to play the system to make it lucrative for themselves as well, which hurts the overall economy.
And the focus of the governor's budget article is enforcement, if I got it right.
It focuses on enforcement.
Two things,
It focuses
and
on
interaction.
it focuses on enforcement, and it focuses on agency information sharing, which right now is a hindrance between how they operate as agencies.
You mean different state agencies aren't talking to each other?
Different state agencies, and
Believe that or not.
and especially where we have, agencies stretched to the limits to carry out their missions with the amount of people that they have. This is a better coordination of all agencies coming together: Division of Taxation, the Attorney General, the Department of Labor and Training, the Commissioner of Public Safety, all coming together and getting a game plan and doing joint efforts and sharing of information on all of these scenarios. And it's worked well in Massachusetts. It's worked extremely well. I think the first year they recouped $1.8 million. That was 4 years ago. This past year, and the other piece to this is that they have to give an annual report to the governor starting in 2015, the effectiveness of this task force. Well, the annual report for 2013 to the governor of Massachusetts was almost $21 million in 1 year that this task force was able to uncover and rightfully recoup.
That's in a 4-year period.
No, I think that was 1 year. The first year was 1.6
to 20 million.
to 20 million. So that goes to show you, what's really happening out there, and it is rampant. So that is something that we will support. And the other piece that we have up there that is a paramount to the building trades is apprenticeship utilization on public works projects over $1 million.
Now, you made some progress on that issue last year with the historic tax credits.
Yes, we did. Well, the historic tax credit that passed, and that's another thing in the budget as well, an expansion of, I believe it's $54 million of the historic tax program, which we support, that larger projects that are in excess of $10 million that they'll have the apprenticeship programs. This piece of legislation actually takes the next step that actually says you will actually employ apprentices on these projects for a certain portion of the hours. Right now, it's in our proposed legislation, it's 15% of the man hours per classification. And what that does is it creates an entry-level pathway and a need for us to continue to bring young people into the industry, whether they're union or merit, it doesn't matter, and create that entry level using public policy for workforce development. So we believe it's a very good piece of legislation, and it uses public policy to create workforce development.
What do you expect to get from the Assembly on this issue? Is there a sense that the Assembly members have an appreciation that we need a workforce for the future?
Well, the two issues we're talking about, the misclass task force seems to be really gaining this time around. I think we're going to have a clear path. Apprenticeship is still vastly misunderstood, and we have an educational process we've tried to do, but let me explain to you quite simply. A few years back, we passed that you needed an apprentice program, a state-approved apprentice program, to be a subcontractor or a general contractor on a job that's over $1 million. Successfully. That was a great thing. But what's occurred is many companies get a paper program. And since apprentices take from 3 to 5 years to graduate, you can't point out that that program is false or merely on paper until it's so. Many companies have gotten on these jobs because they simply presented the fact that they do have a state-approved apprentice program, and lo and behold, not one apprentice works in the job. So this means that 15%, which is very easily done, of hours on a job, you will have to actually not just have the program, you have to utilize apprentices.
Does this cost more money, or does it save money when you have a project?
Apprentices cost less, benefit-wise, many times benefit-wise, and wage-wise. They're learning. They do a lot of the jobs that you would pay more for a journeyman to do. It's a saving to the contractor, and it's also, of course, the bigger picture. It's training people for the future, for their own utilization. for the industry itself.
There is a cost to the extent of the training aspect of it, the training side of it. But as far as the penny for penny cost on a project, no, it's actually a little cheaper because you're allowed to do that. I agree with Scott wholeheartedly. I think more information needs to be discussed on exactly what this is and exactly. I mean, we've been doing apprenticeship since our inception, all of the unions, and it's. Apprentices have happened since the dawn of time. An older tribesman teaches a younger tribesman how to hunt or fish or whatever the case may be. So it's just using, it's a model that works. And the other thing that I'd like to mention as well is that we believe so strongly in offering these opportunities and having the need and the entry-level opportunities for young people in our industry. When I negotiated an agreement on behalf of the building trades for private work, large private works, whether it's a power plant or a treatment plant or a big office building,
or FM Global,
we insert that in our private agreements that we mandate that we also have 15% apprentices on our own project. So it isn't just good when it's on the state's dime. When we have it ourselves with private clients, we impose and impress upon them the necessity to have this in their own agreements as well.
So it's the standard for your industry as far as you're concerned. It's the standard
for our industry.
The problem out there is that for many people, apprenticeship connotes unions. And I wish it did, because we do it best. We spend a lot of our own money, management and labor together to train people. But apprenticeship is union neutral. And if you're in construction and you don't have apprentices, it's the model union or non-union for the history of construction. You learn on the job, and now you learn on the job in a classroom because it's a sophisticated, much more sophisticated world. So we often have a backlash because they hear the word apprenticeship, our opponents, and they say it's going to cost more because, of course, unions do cost more with better value for bigger bucks. But it can be done by a legitimate company, open shop, non-union. They can have a good apprentice program, and they can do exactly what we do and fulfill those obligations. And we'd have to walk away. We wouldn't be happy we're not working there, but we'd have to say, yeah, you did it right. And to be beaten, squarely, beaten evenly, is just the nature of our business. It's a bidding world.
And we get the question, why do you insist on that? Why is that so important to you to bring young people, diversify the building trades and reaching out to minorities and disadvantaged populations to bring into our industry? And the simple reason is that we have an aging baby boomer building trade population. Average age of a tradesperson is about 48 years old. And we look at the curves and the trends and in the workforce going forward, and we're going to have some big time labor shortages 10, 15 years from now if we don't start to bring people in. And it's difficult in a down economy to bring people in when we have such high unemployment. So this is our way to try and address those issues in a timely manner so that we don't really fall off the cliff 15 years from now. And everybody in Rhode Island has a stake in this, including state government. The biggest user of construction services in the state of Rhode Island is the state of Rhode Island. So it's a very simple economic equation, supply and demand. If there are less trained people to do the work and the demand is high, your cost of construction is going to go up. And if we can't meet those supplies, they're going to either come from other places or there's going to be less of them. So to get what you need is going to cost you more money.
Sure. So I know it's early in the legislative process. Do you have some bill sponsors lined up, or are the bills in yet? Have you had some hearings? Where are we at today?
On the misclassification bill, we still have Representative Ucci on the House side, and we have Senator McCafferty on the Senate side. And as far as the apprenticeship, I believe we have Representative Cannavale on the House side and Senator Miller on the Senate side. So, and those bills have been put in. And I also like to note that both those bills passed the Senate last year, and then we just had a little bit more work to do on the House side.
Well, as Scott said earlier, you just have to keep educating people until they fully understand it. It sounds like you have a full plate and then some this year between the bond issues and the different state funding of construction projects. You have some major legislative initiatives. I wish you great luck this session, and I look forward to maybe having a couple of your bill sponsors come on the show and they can talk about how it's going during the legislative process.
We appreciate that.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for being on.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Pat McQuiggan. I'm the Executive Director of the Providence Plan. We are the home to Building Futures, and I'm the Chair of the Executive Committee. I want to welcome all of you to the Building Futures Open House. I want to welcome you to the Paragon Mills, and I want to welcome you to Olneyville. Our program today is going to be a quick one. My job is to move us along. Our first speaker is going to be Governor Chafee, except he couldn't be here, and I just wanted to do a shout out for him. The governor and his administration have been a consistent and powerful supporter of the work at Building Futures. The senior senator has been with Building Futures from the very beginning. The senior senator has used his ability to help bring in some federal money, to open doors, to take phone calls, to set up meetings, and to do everything he could and can to make sure that Rhode Island workers, Rhode Island families, and Rhode Island contractors are benefiting from the federal dollars that flow into this state. It is my honor to ask Jack Reed to come to the podium.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm delighted to be here today, particularly honored to be here with my colleagues, Congressman Langevin and Congressman Cicilline, and so many other distinguished Rhode Islanders who are committed to helping move our economy forward. John Sinnott of the Rhode Island Association of Contractors, and Michael Sabatoni from the Building Trades Council. Thank you, Michael. Andrew Cortez from Building Futures. Jeannie Cola from LIS, dear friend, Councilman Solomon, Michael Solomon, Josh Miller, State Senator, and Representative Jeremiah O'Grady. We're here because we understand that there is a gap between jobs that are available and skills that Rhode Islanders have. We have to close that gap because without that, people won't get jobs, and without well-skilled workers, we won't be productive and grow our economy. Building Futures is part of the solution to this very critical problem. And since 2007, it has been working hard to ensure that we have skilled workers, and those skilled workers have the jobs that will allow them to raise a family in this state. And let me thank the Providence Plan, Youth Build, and Buildings Trade Council, and all their associates and partners for taking this initiative on. Today's open house is a way to connect more and more people with this progressive and very thoughtful approach to bridging the gap between skills and jobs. It's about opportunity for all of our citizens, and an opportunity to grow this economy. And the key is connecting, training, and jobs. And so we need to have not only the trainers, but the employers, and that's why we're all here today. And we have a common mission, a common purpose, which is to get the skills up to the level where they can contribute to the company and get the company to hire those skilled workers. We've been doing this at the national level, Congressman Langevin, Congressman Cicilline, Senator Whitehouse, and I, working to ensure that the funding we've provided in this latest budget supports job training programs, supports the Job Corps, supports Youth Build, supports those initiatives that will result in jobs for our people, the #1 challenge that we face today. So I'm just delighted to be here and delighted to lend my support to this great effort. Thank you very, very much for being here also. Thank you.
Senator Whitehouse is not able to be here today. He is out of town and I think out of the country, but I want to make sure to give a shout out to him. Sheldon and his staff are there all the time. Anytime we have needed them, the help that they have provided, they get it. They help us every time that we need it. And I just want to thank Sheldon on behalf of all of us. Congressman David Cicilline.
Thank you, Pat. Good morning. I am really thrilled to be here with, first with my colleagues, Senator Reed and Congressman Langevin, and I know Senator Whitehouse is represented well by Tony Simon. All three have been incredible advocates for this program and for workforce training and for investing in apprenticeship programs. So I'm happy to be with all of them, as well as with Senator Miller, Representative O'Grady, Representative Hull, many, many leaders in the labor movement, George Nee, Paul McDonald, many members of the building trades, too many, as Jim said, to mention, but certainly Michael Sabatoni, the leader, and Andrew Cortez, thank you for your incredible leadership of Building Futures. Thank you to the Providence Plan, because without the Providence Plan and the really excellent applications for funding, it would have been hard to advocate for it and successfully. So Pat, thank you to you and your board. Thank you to the great staff of Building Futures. There's been a lot of conversation about workforce training in the last several months. The President spoke about it during the State of the Union. We have an example here at Building Futures of a spectacular, not just job training, but career preparation program that's effective and that's cost efficient and that's producing real results. And we're going to hear from two graduates I know will be the best speakers of the morning that are going to talk about the program. It is making a real difference, but I want to say at the very outset, it would not have happened without the strong, relentless and wonderful partnership of the building trades. This apprenticeship program happened because they came to the table with a real commitment to make it a success, to invest in it, to put resources behind it, and Andrew masterfully coordinated all the many different personalities in those early days, but it's been a great success in large part because of their commitment. The second piece of it is the partners like Gilbane and Brown University and Providence College. It's important that when graduates complete this program that they actually have work. And so the willingness of the private sector to really avail themselves of this great apprenticeship program, in the end, I think they all find that it's in their own best interest because they're getting highly skilled, great workers. But for the city and for the state, it's a particular source of pride because these are individuals who come from our city that are now working on development projects all across the city. And so it sort of goes full cycle. And it's been a great success. It's something we should be really proud of. It's something we have to continue to grow. And we're celebrating it today with this open house. And you can see by the attendance, the excitement. We just have to be sure that we can continue to support this program so we can continue to create great career paths for many, many more Rhode Islanders. I know that there are some recent kind of assessments that were done about Building Futures. The United States Department of Labor and the Aspen Institute have both recognized Building Futures and the pre-apprenticeship program as national models. And these are obviously organizations that have a tremendous amount of credibility. And it's a real testament to the success of the program, both here in Rhode Island and all across the country. And I think it's just particularly important that we take moments like this to remind ourselves of all the people who helped build this program, what a difference it's making in the life of our city and our state, and equally importantly, what a difference it's making in the lives of individuals who successfully graduate and leave here very proud to be part of a very important industry in Rhode Island. So congratulations and thank you, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week, Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.